Assalamualaikum everyone. We are ready to start with our webinar. We have many of the participants have joined. A few are um, joining in. So we will begin with the. I'm Raida Latif. I work with the Pakistan Stock Exchange in the Marketing and Business Development Department. I head that, in fact, and within our area, within our role as a frontline regulator, we have a very important task of creating awareness and advocacy and advocating the cause and the objective of sustainability. So with that, this is a webinar series that we've initiated where we invite experts of the industry, people who are not only hands-on and are also practitioners of the sustainability, various areas within the sustainability continuum. So today, a very warm welcome for today's webinar session. Our topic is understanding and preventing greenwashing, which is brought to you by the Pakistan Stock Exchange. It is our ongoing commitment to inculcate the knowledge about ESG practices. As the world is grappling with the challenges of environment, the pressure on corporations to adopt sustainable practices has intensified. Many companies, to meet these growing expectations, have embraced ESG frameworks, reporting mechanisms, and sustainability initiatives. However, with this rise in sustainability reporting, there has come to we actually see this unfortunate trend of greenwashing. Today, in our webinar, we will be addressing all that. For those who are unfamiliar with the term, greenwashing refers to misleading claims made by companies to appear more environmentally responsible than they truly are. This can range from vague, exaggerated claims to outright deceptive advertising of products or services as eco-friendly, when in reality they contribute to environmental harm. Let me provide you an example to clarify. For example, a renowned fashion brand might market a new clothing line as being made from sustainable materials. Yet, the actual production process may involve excessive water usage, poor labor conditions, or harmful chemical treatments that might far outweigh the environmental benefits of the materials themselves. Similarly, an energy company could rebrand itself as a green leader by promoting its renewable energy projects while still maintaining a substantial portion of its revenue from fossil fuel extraction. This is why understanding the concept of greenwashing is crucial. It is extremely crucial. It just doesn't harm the environment, but it also erodes the trust with the stakeholders, which can be your investors, which can be your consumers, which could be your other business partners who are increasingly prioritizing transparency and authenticity in sustainability efforts. Our session today will focus on greenwashing, what it is all about, the tools and the frameworks that companies can use to avoid greenwashing. There are financial implications of greenwashing and, of course, the role of regulatory bodies and stakeholders in ensuring the accountability. We are fortunate to have Ms. Maha Qasim from 0 Point Partners, who is a distinguished expert on ESG. She will delve deep into these issues. She'll share practical insights on how businesses can navigate the fine line. There is a very, very thin fine line between genuine ESG initiatives and misleading marketing. Before we dive into our discussion, I'd like to briefly introduce our speaker, Ms. Maha Qasim. She's the founder and CEO of 0 Point Partners, leading client engagement, specializing in ESG strategy advisory and capacity building. sustainability reporting, and climate risk assessment. She is an environment and sustainability expert with over 16 years of global experience in environmental management, ESG strategy and disclosure, climate adaptation and resilience, and climate finance. As ESG faculty lead at the Pakistan Institute of Corporate Governance, she coaches climate entrepreneurs through the USAID's Private Finance Advisory Network. Prior to this, she has worked as an independent consultant, providing climate finance advisory services to Pakistan's leading renewable energy company and a commercial bank, successfully securing their accreditation to the Green Climate Fund, the GCF. So thank you for all for being here. And without further ado, I give the floor to Ms. Maha Qasim to take this discussion forward. She is also accompanied by Ms. Noor Fatma Anwar and Ms. Janine Kuolo, who will also be speaking today, and they represent Zero Point Partners also. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Ms. Maha Qasim to take this forward. With this, let's get started. So over to you, Ms.
Thank you so
Maha.
much. Thank you, Raida, for the kind introduction. I'll just quickly get right into it and share my screen. I hope everyone can see it. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. So once again, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend this webinar. It's on a very, I would say, relevant topic, understanding and preventing greenwashing, because as Raida just mentioned, more and more organizations are, getting into the sustainability space, trying to green their supply chains and overall green messaging towards their consumers and clients. And greenwashing is actually explained. It's the basically companies trying to appear to be more sustainable or eco-friendly than they actually are. And we will try and go through some very relevant examples for different industries. So we've done the introductions already. Then we'll get into some of the local regulatory requirements of the Competition Commission of Pakistan. This is the body that is primarily responsible for addressing greenwashing in the local context. Then Noor and Janine will walk you through some examples of greenwashing practices and some of the impacts to businesses. And these can include significant financial implications, as well as, of course, legal and reputational risks. They will briefly describe global greenwashing regulations. And finally, we will end with some best practices on how to avoid greenwashing. A brief introduction about Zero Point Partners. We are an advisory and consulting firm working with different industries, government, and partners to enable transition to a sustainable economy. We facilitate ESG capacity building, strategy development, decarbonization roadmaps for different industries, and we offer end-to-end project implementation as well. Our team, of course, in environmental engineering, ESG strategy, governance, capacity building, gender mainstreaming, and sustainable development and business intelligence. So greenwashing is essentially the practice of making misleading sustainability claims. These can include both environmental as well as social or governance related claims. And we'll get into specific examples later. It typically occurs when a certain set of environmental or sustainability characteristics are attributed to a product or service. So, for example, there's a product and you claim that it's extremely green or it's good for your health or it will improve your life in some way, or it's zero plastic, zero waste. So these are the kinds of terms that are typically thrown around when an organization or a product might be accused of greenwashing practices. Typically, this is consumer facing. So, any marketing or advertising that is deceitful or that is deceptive. This could include corporate communications, so highlighting organization or brand attributes as being ultra green or super efficient. And this could also include kind of fudging your metrics and targets to appear more sustainable than you actually are. The nature of the information that's provided could include, outright lies. So trying to show something that's true, even if it's not, deliberately omitting certain types of information to make the product or organization appear, more sustainable or more green than it actually is. And the consequences, of course, of mis-selling to sustainability markets. And the intent really doesn't matter. Companies might be unaware that they are indulging in greenwashing practices, and this might be due to a lack of understanding or internal controls, or it could be deliberate as well. But it doesn't matter because the Competition Commission of Pakistan will obviously take you to task, no matter if your intent was deliberate or not. So here I just have a section highlighted from the Competition Act of 2010, which strongly prohibits deceptive marketing practices. And they actually have an Office of Fair Trade, which has been created within the Competition Commission of Pakistan to oversee consumer protection issues. And the idea is that through deceptive marketing, consumers might suffer, injuries to their health, or they might be misled into using products in a certain way. Deceptive marketing includes, all of these different clauses outlined here. It could include the distribution of false or misleading information that is capable of harming the business interest of another undertaking. So some of the cases that we're seeing is, company A and company B are both from the same industry, but company A markets itself as more sustainable, and when it's not really, and this impacts the business interests of company B, or like impacts the market share, for example. So this is directly impacting competition. It's considered an unfair business practice. Second could be, of course, directly misleading consumers, including distribution of information without having your facts in place. This could be related to the price or method of production, the properties of the product, as well as the suitability for use and quality of goods. So, for example, if we say that a certain product is very nutritious, but without mentioning that it's only for like adults, and then children accidentally use it and suffer consequences to their health. So this could be an example of deceptive marketing. And this could occur, like, for example, in the packaging of your products as well as in the process of advertising. This also includes things like product labeling. So, for example, not being transparent about the ingredients of your products, intentionally or unintentionally omitting certain information which misleads your customers. The Act applies to all undertakings, and regardless of whether these are publicly listed companies or privately owned companies, and all of these companies are open to action from the Competition Commission, which essentially has the same powers as vested in a civil court, including summoning and enforcing the attendance of a witness, demanding documentary evidence, accepting evidence on affidavits, requisitioning your public records from the court or office, and finally also issuing the commission for the examination of a witness. So sometimes, the CEO of the company or board members might be called into court to answer, questions about deceptive marketing practices. They essentially have the same authority as a civil court for the purpose of treating these offenses. And the CCP can issue show cause notices to these firms and impose hefty fines on companies that are seen to violate Section 10 of the Competition Commission Act of 2010. And this can result in significant financial losses and reputational damage. And in Pakistan, we've seen an uptick in such cases, typically in the last 2 to 3 years, because this green marketing is also overall increasing, as consumers are looking for more green or sustainable products in their buying choices. This is a very recent case from Pakistan. The CCP served notices to 12 cosmetic companies for greenwashing. The firms advertised their products as being natural, but this was not backed by any kind of scientific evidence. In fact, there were some chemical additives that were found when the product was tested. The Commission says that such claims can pose potential health risks to users. For example, somebody might be allergic to certain chemicals, but believing that the product is 100% natural, they might use it and then, suffer some sort of a reaction. So in that sense, it can be injurious to consumers as well. Another very recent example from Pakistan is the CCP initiated action against multiple beverage manufacturers over misleading packaging. So sometimes you might have seen even in the market, some companies put pictures of fruits and vegetables on their packaging to make the product appear to be very pure, extracted from natural sources with natural flavors. So what the CCP found was that when the product was marketed domestically, it had all of these pictures and all of this messaging on their packaging. But when the same product was exported from Pakistan to other countries, their packaging was significantly different without these kind of claims because internationally the regulations are much more stringent around deceptive marketing practices. So they actually called out these beverage manufacturers for misleading consumers through their packaging. And again, so they're currently facing a lawsuit from CCP. So these are the two examples I wanted to talk about. I'll now hand it over to Noor to lead you through the next section, which talks about specific greenwashing examples in the international context. I'll stop right there, Noor. Over to you.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. So I'll just discuss the two ways in which companies can engage in greenwashing. Firstly, it can be through changes in branding and repackaging by using buzzwords and catchphrases and logos such as all natural, eco-friendly, farm fresh, when in reality that's not the case. It can also include using imagery such as with green colors and earth tones that gives the impression of being friendly to the environment when in reality that's not the case. The other way in which companies can engage in greenwashing is through claims of legitimacy. So this includes taking a limited set of a product or services attributes that appear to be sustainable and eco-friendly and just blowing them out of proportion or highlighting them so much that the environmentally harmful impacts of the product or service are overshadowed. So there are essentially three types of greenwashing. So there are essentially three types of greenwashing. Firstly, misleading labels such as I mentioned, organic, eco-friendly, sustainably sourced, farm fresh, and more. We saw this in the example that Maha shared of the cosmetic companies that were taken to charge because they said that they claimed that their cosmetic products were natural when in reality there was no evidence to back that up. Secondly, an international food company recently came under fire for marketing its products as being sustainably sourced when in reality that was not the case. And they were promoting child labor and mass deforestation in cocoa plantations by paying the labor so low that they had to resort to employing children within their operation. Another way that companies can engage in greenwashing is through deceptive marketing. So as I mentioned before, this includes using natural imagery such as leaves, plants, fruits, green colors, earth tones to give the impression that the product is friendly to the environment when in reality there is no evidence or proof to back that up. So as we saw in the example of the beverage companies that had fruits, vegetables, and herbal plants on their packaging when there was no proof to back it up that the product was completely made of natural sources. As we can see in the images on this slide, so there we can see a detergent amidst green leaves and a cold drink bottle in an open field to give the impression that it's good to the environment. A third way in which companies can engage in greenwashing is through deflection. So the Competition Commission of Pakistan says that any brand or marketing campaign, including the words green or made with recycled content, can be misleading if the environmental cost of using that recycled content outweighs the environmental benefits of using that within the brand, within the product or service. So this happens when an organization takes a single sustainable component or activity that they're doing and just highlights that. So this can manifest in the example of a brand or company that says that it's using plastic, it has eliminated the use of plastic straws when the cup is still made out of plastic. So there are a few ways in which consumers can be cautious of marketing campaigns and branding campaigns that employ that engage in greenwashing. So firstly, brands that are truly sustainable are transparent about their impact on the environment. Secondly, the brands that are truly engaging that have proof to back up their green or environmental claims display all the ingredients in their products clearly on their packaging. Thirdly, they have third-party accredited information to back up their claims. Fourthly, they have trackable metrics such as barcodes, lot numbers, serial numbers, so that if investigated, consumers can see the journey of the product throughout the value chain. Now I'll hand it over to Janine to discuss the implications of greenwashing.
Thanks, Noor. So as you can see, we've gone through what the definition of greenwashing is, what are some of the different types of greenwashing, what are some of the product labels and claims that can be considered as greenwashing. But what is the actual impact of these issues on your business performance? Well, there are two kinds, right? So if you see over here, there could be one, which is the legal risks involved. So if a company is found to be working on greenwashing and they're falsely marketing themselves as being environmentally responsible, they may face lawsuits and fines from regulatory bodies that find that they're misleading consumers. So this can result in legal costs and hefty fines, as well as if the regulatory body wants to, they can also issue a non-compliance measure on the company, which can result in penalties and procurement charges. Separately, you can also attract a loss in your consumer trust and a downfall in your investor confidence, leading to a loss of revenue as well as decreased stock prices and difficulty actually attracting investors in the future. And over time, all of these factors can add up to significant financial losses as well as damage in your public image and also handling legal consequences. So over here, if a company is looking to attract investors, nowadays the current mode for investors is to make sure that the companies that they're investing in and that their portfolio has to have a strong sustainability strategy, that they are disclosing transparent measures and they're not involved in greenwashing. But if they are found to be making misleading claims, then they may pull out their investments because they want to avoid reputational risk, which can also lead to capital outflows, which leads to volatility in your stock prices. And additionally, this can lead to your company being exposed to increased regulatory scrutiny, which can further impact and damage your company's financial stability and long-term investor confidence. So over here, I've given an example of a global automotive company which wanted to increase its sales in North America, particularly for its diesel cars. So the corporate culture back in 2015 almost, and previously as well, was that financial targets have to be met. Failure was not an option. But within the US, there are strict emissions regulations because the government wants to make sure that the fuels that cars combust don't lead to very poisonous fumes, which then affect the customers or people's health. So what they did was they were unable to meet these strict emissions regulations at the target cost given to them, and they did not report it to leadership. What they actually did was install faulty software in their cars. So when they were being tested, they would record lower greenhouse gas emissions. But in actuality, when the vehicles were being driven, they were producing 40 times the amount of nitrogen oxide emissions that are permitted by US law. In the short term, this company actually did see higher profits. They saw an increased market share because they were marketing their vehicles as being clean diesel. But after a while, when the scandal broke in just 10 days, they saw that their market cap depleted by about $32 billion. And their CEO had to step down because he was found to be responsible. He had to bear the brunt of greenwashing. Even to this day, like almost 10 years later, he still he still has to face charges of fraud and market manipulation because he failed to inform investors of the emissions rigging software. This car company in particular lost their customers because they closed their accounts because they felt they were cheated on. They moved their business to other automakers. And now this company has formed a sustainability council to help the company transform its image towards being an authentic, sustainable mobility company. And they have also had to pledge stricter compliance measures and reform their corporate culture, increase their transparency regarding their emissions, regarding the emissions from their vehicles. If we go on, we can see that in the fashion industry, greenwashing is also very rampant, particularly with this ongoing trend of fast fashion, where companies have to meet high demands, market demands, in a very small amount of time. They resort to not the most environmentally friendly practices. They make, they have to make, clothes on a very short deadline, which then means that they have to use a lot of synthetic, materials that are produced en masse and at a cheap cost. But what this particular company within the fashion industry was doing was marketing their synthetic fossil fuel-based fibers as being eco-friendly and organic. And when they actually found out, when the Competition Markets Authority in the UK found out about this, their shareholders very publicly announced that they were divesting from the company because the greenwashing claims and the regulatory scrutiny brought their supply chain and future growth into question. And shareholders were not confident in this company's growth anymore. As you can see over here, in July 2020, they had a share price of about 425 British pence, which then in just 4 years got reduced to almost 25 pence. You can see that greenwashing actually has a very sharp and direct impact on your financial performance. And it's very important that companies have to, comply with regulations, especially not only national, but you also have to look at international regulations in order to make sure that it doesn't impact your business performance. I'll hand it over to Noor now to go over what these different regulations are.
Thank you, Janine. Okay, you're sharing. Okay, great. So, owing to the worsening climate crisis and the ongoing sustainability transition, there has been a rise in global greenwashing regulations across the world. So we saw that in the UK, even though these regulations have been around to limit what brands and marketing campaigns can say to their consumers, there has been a rise recently. So in the UK, we saw that the UK Competition and Markets Authority launched the Green Claims Code, which essentially puts out 3 principles that brands and corporates have to adhere to in their campaigns. So this is being truthful, being honest, not using unclear statements, backing up any claims with verified, up-to-date evidence, and just generally be not taking into account the whole life cycle of the product. Next, in the EU, the Green Claims Directive, which came into play last year, puts restrictions on brands on how they can prove their environmental claims, requires brands to incorporate third-party verified evidence when making these claims, and also puts limits on how environmental labeling schemes can prove their sustainability claims. In the USA, the Federal Trade Commission has updated its green guides to talk about how products are accredited and the use of sustainable materials and sustainable energy sources and carbon offset claims. Also, in Australia, the Australian Competition Consumer Commission has launched 8 principles which are similar to the ones in the UK, but also put limits on what brands can use as images in their campaigns, and how brands should be transparent about their sustainability transition. Next slide, please. So here we can see what these recent regulations are incorporating, what they're guiding. So in terms of marketing and advertising of products and services, the Green Claims Directive in the EU and the Green Claims Code in the UK provide guidance. In terms of corporate communications, which includes brand commitments, values, promises, and commitments that brands make to their stakeholders, the Greenwashing Directive and Green Claims Code again provide guidance. And the Green Guides, which we discussed previously, also help brands figure out what they should say when making environmental claims. In terms of disclosures, which include sustainability reports and performance targets and metrics, the EU Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and IFRS Sustainability Reporting Standards, which have been endorsed by the accounting body in Pakistan as well, and the US SEC climate disclosure rules provide guidance on what companies and brands should put out in terms of their environmental claims. Next slide, please. So how does Pakistan fare in this global landscape of greenwashing regulations? So consumers in countries to which Pakistan exports put pressure on local brands and local brands which are already facing scrutiny from their jurisdictional regulators. Then the businesses have to put stringent criteria on their suppliers, such as Pakistan, to adhere to certain sustainability demands. And these suppliers have to prove whatever claims that they're making and how products that are supplying abroad, that they're sustainable and environmentally friendly through audits by third parties such as PwC, EY, KPMG, and the like. So these regulations are particularly important for brands and corporates who want to are looking to export abroad. For example, food companies are looking to export biscuits and spices abroad, and chemical companies such as pharmaceutical and fertilizer companies that are looking to sell their products internationally. Now I'll hand it over to Janine to discuss some best practices with regards to greenwashing.
Thanks, Noor. So we've gone through what greenwashing is, what the different types, how it can impact your business performance, and what regulations are looking for. Now, what can companies do themselves to prepare for making a very strong sustainability case within the company for your business performance? There are a few different kinds of ways that you can do it, but the most important is sustainability has to be a top-down approach, and that means holding your board accountable, making sure that your board is well versed in sustainability issues such as risks and opportunities and how this can impact your company is important for then sustainability initiatives to then trickle down throughout the organization and across its value chain. Secondly, you need to make sure that your sustainability reporting is aligned with international frameworks and that it is transparent and accurate. This is because your sustainability disclosure, your report, is the main primary piece of evidential document that investors or any shareholders, stakeholders will be reviewing to make sure that your company's activities are in line with international regulations, that you're not greenwashing and that you are being truthful about what you're doing. Thirdly, when it comes to your sustainability initiatives, you need to make sure that you're taking quantifiable action and not just making vague or exaggerated claims that can't be backed up. So making sure that you have a sustainability strategy where you have very defined goals, as well as a roadmap on how you're going to reach those goals and what metrics you're going to measure your progress and your success on. This will help to show that you have a plan in place, that you're working on your plan, and that you have an end goal in mind. And lastly, if you want to have a competitive advantage in your industry and show that you are serious about sustainability and are not greenwashing, you can look into engaging in third-party certifications. So that could be your fair trade or your LEED certification for buildings, which offers more assurance to consumers and your investors that your environmental efforts are legitimate. We'll go over these in a bit more detail now. So this slide essentially shows that your board and your management have to be interacting on sustainability issues. So your management should be well-versed and should have the industry experience to understand, identify material sustainability risks and opportunities to your company, and share that with the board, who should be educated and informed on these issues, which can then help opportunities within their different board processes and prioritize them in accordance to a timeline which the company wants to work on these issues. And this will not only be helpful to for your management to assign ownership and your KPIs to track and take responsibility on different sustainability issues. For instance, you want to make sure that your emissions are not above a certain limit. You want to make sure that you're working with renewable energy over, fossil fuels, and all these activities should then be given oversight by your board, who will then ensure that they're disclosed in the proper way and backed up by your sustainability data and strategy and goals. Over here, the slide essentially shows what your model of a good board accountability for sustainability should look like. Currently, your current boards across the globe, as well as in Pakistan, are a mixture of these four models. So you could have maybe one dedicated sustainability committee, or you could have sustainability made as an additional responsibility to an existing committee. For example, a lot of practices see that your HSC or health, safety, and environmental committees are taking up sustainability. But the caveat with this is that you're going to have a very myopic view on sustainability. For instance, ethical supply chain, good sustainable agriculture practice won't actually fall into your health and safety committee. Other than that, you can also have a board champion that advocates for sustainability issues, and they could probably have a lot of sway within, the industry. But again, this puts the responsibility on only one person, which is not, viable. A lot of times what we can see is that having a multi-committee responsibility is probably the best stepping stone to then make a fully integrated board, which looks at sustainability from all lenses and all verticals of your company. The absolute no, what should not happen is that sustainability is not formally embedded at all at the board level, because that means that this company, that's a red flag for a lot of shareholders and stakeholders, that the company is not serious about sustainability, and any environmental or sustainable claim that they make has a very great risk of running as being greenwashing. So over here, this is an example of what a global chocolate company has done to ensure that there's accountability on the board level for sustainability to make sure that they are not greenwashing. This particular chocolate company sources its cocoa beans from the Ivory Coast and Ghana, and they advertise their goods, their chocolates, their products as being 100% exploitation free. So what they've done is they've introduced golden shares, which will help to safeguard their ethical strategy and prevent any shareholders from weakening its sustainability commitment, which is being 100% exploitation free, from happening in the future. So this creates a new governance structure that carries the power to veto any changes to its sustainable and ethical strategy. And they've appointed these golden shares to mission guardians, which are essentially people who do not work within the company, but hold the board accountable for any changes that happen to their ethical strategy. So that means that any complaints that are made from perhaps employees or the cocoa farmers or even investors and business partners, these mission guardians will take up these complaints with the senior management and the board and work together to resolve these issues. And these mission guardians would also, report on the company's business practices within their sustainability report, which is transparent and publicly available for anyone to see. Sorry. So when it comes to having a sustainable strategy and particularly your claims, what you're saying the company is doing, you do not want to be, wishy-washy. You don't want to be vague. So things like, oh, we're reducing our carbon footprint, or we're reducing our GHG emissions significantly. This doesn't tell anyone anything that you're doing. Significantly, you don't know where to put that in context. Does that mean that you're reducing it 100% or 50%? And what is that relevant? How is that related to the company on a base year, right? So you want to maybe perhaps say something like, okay, we're minimizing our environmental footprint by reducing our company-wide absolute scope 1 and 2 GHG emissions by 45% by 2030 against a 2019 base year. This is something that shows that this company has a plan, and they are very transparent on their sustainability work. They have a plan in place. They're maybe not there at the end. They're maybe not 100%, but you don't need to be 100%. You just need to be truthful to what your company is doing at the moment. Lastly, you can look into adding into getting third-party certifications, because this just adds another level of assurance and authenticity to your sustainability claims. So for instance, maybe in the FMCG and the food companies over here in Pakistan can look into getting fair trade certification, because this shows that your company is, focusing and giving fair wages to your farmers. They're working in safe working environments, and they're, currently doing sustainable farming practices. So this is good for companies that, are maybe selling chocolate or coffee or cotton, because this signals to consumers as well as your, your B2B customers that, okay, our product, this company is responsible, and they're not going to put us into a bad position when we're then selling our final products to customers. Separately, if you're looking to physically expand your presence, you can look into getting LEED certification for your buildings. LEED essentially stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and it basically rates buildings based on their design, their construction, and operation in terms of your energy efficiency, your water conservation, your waste reduction management, and overall environmental impact. And this signals that, okay, this organization, not only within its products, but also in the way that it expands and its physical presence, is very serious about reducing its energy costs and environmental footprint. And I'll hand it over now to Noor to conclude this webinar.
Thank you so much, Janine. So in today's presentation, we saw what greenwashing is, what are its different types, how a consumer can spot it, what are its implications, global regulations that are cracking down on environmental claims, and best practices to avoid it. Lastly, in conclusion, I'd just like to emphasize that any company looking to export abroad, have a footprint internationally, should definitely consider going for third-party certifications and just being transparent about their sustainability journey when marketing their products and making environmental claims. Thank you so much, and we are open to questions.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Hi, Janine, Noor, and Maha. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. So,
Yes.
my name is Fahad Asif. I will be representing Pakistan Stock Exchange. I work as Senior Manager Digital Media and Investor Education. So, I'll be taking care of the Q&A part of the webinar. So, we have got a couple of questions here that I would like to share with you real quick. Meanwhile, if you are getting any questions on one of your platforms, then please feel free to answer to those questions while I gather these up here. So I do understand that some of these questions they have already been answered to an extent throughout the presentation, but I would like to ask them anyway. So just to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned. So starting off, there's a question that what key criteria should be used to differentiate between genuine sustainability efforts and greenwashing practices in corporate sustainability reports? If you'd like to put some light on it.
Yeah, I can take this one. So the main thing that corporates should consider in their sustainability or green marketing campaigns is having proof and data that is accredited and verified by third parties to back up their sustainability claims. That is just we are seeing across the globe in like greenwashing regulations. They're including criteria for all companies looking to make environmental and sustainability claims to have have those audited and verified by third parties. So that is paramount. Janine, if you'd like to add anything over here.
Yeah, so when you're preparing your corporate sustainability report, obviously you'll be wanting to align with international frameworks, so IFRS, GRI. Already within these frameworks, they have very detailed guidelines on what metrics, what data they want you to disclose. So that, shows your emissions, your GHG intensity. Also, when you're looking at, perhaps saying this product is 100%, carbon neutral, you want to make sure that what is the process that you're defining carbon neutral by, right? You want to make sure that that whole product life cycle, nowhere are there emissions from fossil fuels, or you want to make sure that it's completely 100% renewable energy. So really making sure that already sticking to the guidelines by your international frameworks, but also looking at your regulatory bodies. So within Pakistan, you have your CCP, or maybe if you're exporting to within the UK, maybe you have a buyer in the UK. You want to make sure that the Competition and Markets Authority, the green claims guide, you're making sure that you're not mentioning any of the claims without having the information to back it up, and you're aligning with all of their instructions. I hope that answers your question.
Great. So the next question is, yes, you
Like,
want to
I
something?
just like to add here that
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Just so the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan has also launched ESG disclosure guidelines, and companies that are looking to make claims locally should also when to back up their claims.
All right. So let's move to the next one. The next one is, what are the potential legal consequences for companies found guilty of greenwashing under international environmental law? If you can answer that question.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? Is it what does your company do if it's found to be greenwashing?
The question is about the potential legal consequences for companies who are found guilty for greenwashing. So there must be some international laws applicable to in place to tackle these kind of scenarios.
Yeah. So when it comes to greenwashing, so like in the example, I'll just go as well to show you more context. So you have to understand your greenwashing claims, right, against any product that you have has serious issues. They were saying that they had clean diesel. Has these gases, and that's not good for your customers, not only for the person driving, but also just people on the streets. So if you're saying you're clean, you're actually taking onus, you're taking responsibility for poisoning or creating damage to the health of people across the board, because you're mass producing these products. So 9 million cars were sold and were found to be with these faulty software. That's 9 million cars on the road across geographies. That's 9 million people. That's, if you just take a very conservative figure, right? 9 million people are driving these vehicles. That's 9 million people who are being exposed to toxic nitrogen oxide gases, fumes that are coming from these cars. So when you look at the legal consequences, just on this, you will probably have to, if anyone has any serious health issues, or have lung issues or surgery or any sort of medical needs that have to be covered by the company, you also have to look at maybe if a product, for instance, is saying that their milk powder is being actually appeased, children perhaps, that has very dire consequences for them. So you have to see that a lot of the legal issues not only have to do with your consumers, you also have to make sure that any medical issues, anything that can be directly linked back to your product will have a fine or a penalty, a cost to it, which the company will inevitably have to suffer and have to pay up. So you should just look at, from a foresight perspective, like if I make this claim that my product is completely clean, it's organic, what are the potential impacts or consequences if it's not actually organic, or if it's not clean? Like, what is the sort of scope of the damage that's being done, and can my company not only now but in the years to come, will we be able to finance the fines and the penalties and procurement bans and everything?
Yeah, that should answer the question. Next question is, how can AI and big data analytics can help in detecting greenwashing in corporate sustainability claims, if there is any research on it yet, anything that's been done in terms of having AI in place for the big data helping with the detection of greenwashing?
Okay, I can take that. Janine, maybe. Sorry, Maha, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, so thanks. I think that's a very relevant question. So AI is basically embedded into almost all sorts of environmental, metrics, tracking, etc. So there are some very sophisticated tools actually that can be used to verify sustainability data, which are backed by AI. So, for example, if you're making green claims in your sustainability report, what AI can do is pull information from other industries to verify the veracity of that data. So, measuring the authenticity of your data against peer companies, against benchmarks. So there are tailored tools to do that. Some that are industry specific, and increasingly, some of these stock exchange initiatives are also taking measures to embed AI software to track companies' ESG metrics. So it's already been done. Maybe not in Pakistan yet, but there is a lot of potential actually to automate entire sustainability reporting and verification process. Probably pretty soon, I would assume in the next few months or even like a couple of years.
All right, great. I think this is all what we had today in terms of the queries from people who were watching. A few people asked that if can they get the presentation. So perhaps you guys could answer to that as well. Would you be able to share the presentation to people who joined today?
Sure, we can share it with Raida maybe, and she can share it with the participants. Or maybe you can put it up on your website maybe for people to access.
Anybody who wants to access the presentation that has been given today, all you have to do is just write to us at info@psx.com.pk, and we'll get back to you with the presentation. And so you can go through what you missed out or what you want to go through again. I think that is all for today. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to add before we conclude? Noor?
That's all. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. And yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this.
I'm sorry I missed the last part.
Yeah, I just was saying thank you for the opportunity to discuss this very important and of the moment topic. And we really enjoyed answering all the questions because they're pretty relevant and very interesting.
All right, and on behalf of Pakistan Stock Exchange, I'd like to thank you, Zero Point Ventures and Maha Qasim, for sharing your valuable insights and about the greenwashing, the subject of greenwashing. Your expertise has definitely provided our audience with a deeper understanding of the critical issue, and the discussion shed light on the importance of transparent sustainability practices as well. So I would just like to extend my gratitude for the engaging conversation and the thought-provoking questions that have been raised by the audience today. Thank you very much again for participating in this, and hopefully we'll continue to do this in future as well. And thank you very much everybody else and all the audience that joined today through Zoom as well as through Facebook Live. If you have any more questions that you haven't asked, feel free to drop your queries at one of our social media channels, or just drop your queries at info@psx.com.pk. And that would be all for today. Thank you very much for taking our time, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Take care. Allah.